I remember like the bridge and sidelines when it goes da. I wanted it to be like on highlights in Life of Pablo. It was like like I wanted it to kind of
A
have
level
that,
of that.
just random.
Tapping into that.
That might be surprising that I was
Yeah.
like trying to sneak in some like Kanyeisms, which
Yeah.
does not translate at all.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I am with the enemy talking with Wallows today. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Really good.
Yeah, pretty good.
You've just come from Liverpool, right?
We got here from Liverpool yesterday.
Yes, so we had yesterday in London, day before Liverpool. So yeah.
And how was Reading and Leeds? That's your first time playing there, right?
It was our first time.
How did you find it?
I think we all thought it was incredible.
Yeah.
It's we've grown up like watching so many videos and footage from performances from bands that sort of changed our lives playing there, and it always just looks like unreal, like the energy and the size of the crowd and like just how passionate all the music fans are. And so it was it definitely felt the same for us on stage. Like the turnout was great and the energy was better than any energy we feel like we've seen in a crowd, and it was just it felt like sort of young dreams coming true in a way, playing 100%. There in that way.
Yeah, I've never seen a crowd. At one point, everyone was kind of half sitting and rowing a boat all together. Yeah. It's like, but that doesn't happen in the States, you know?
I've never seen that in my
I was going to
life.
say, like, what's the difference between a festival that you might have in America versus something like Reading and Leeds?
Something I notice is a bunch of phones in America. People put up their phones a lot, but here they just sing and they kind of, they're more rowdy. There's more mosh pits. There was like 7 mosh pits happening at one time, and you don't see that really at all in the U.S. Not that they don't, have as much energy or whatever, but it's just like a different kind of energy, you know?
Yeah.
And they sing the riffs here in the UK, which is pretty interesting. I always knew that watching like old Arctic Monkey videos.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think also like there's a distinctness about UK music fans because of the rich history of music that we have here. And I know that you're really big fans of like UK bands. Obviously Arctic Monkeys is something that you just referenced. Did you get to see them actually?
No.
I mean, different day.
Yeah.
It just.
Have you seen them before?
Yes.
Yeah.
Tons of.
Yes.
A lot of time.
Yes, we've seen Arctic Monkeys a lot.
Yeah,
I would have given anything to see them again, especially at like Reading and Leeds. I feel like that's the place to see Arctic Monkeys. But
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I mean, on British music, I guess, I think there was an interview that I watched where you referenced the Libertines, for example, a kind of a semi-resurgence that they're having in some ways. I don't know if you've read Pete Doherty's autobiography.
I picked it up today, and
It's
I
really
through
good.
it. Yeah, I want to read it. Yeah.
It's really good, very, very funny. He's always been somebody that's kind of like unintentionally funny. Of course, there's going to be like lots of like drug and alcohol stories, but the way that he tells them is just like very, very hilarious. Completely not on purpose, but it's really good. It's worth it.
Oh, I'm excited. He's one of my idols. He's one of my favorites.
What do you reckon is like this? What is it about somebody like Pete Doherty that kind of like continues to like influence music, I guess?
Well, he's so, I feel like he's so genuine. Like his work is so genuine and so real. And I just always, there's such a passion to his music and so authentic. And he's an amazing lyricist, amazing writer. It just seems to, it's just from a real place, you know what I mean? It's not fake, you know, and that's why I love him particularly. I don't know. I love his solo stuff. I think it's just because it resonates with people in a different way. You know, he's a true icon for sure.
Yeah. And you mentioned that you went to Liverpool. Did you get to see, aside from obviously the lineage of the Beatles, did you get to see the whole city like enough?
Yeah. We did. We like knocked off the Beatles stuff. We went to Paul's house and John's house, Strawberry Fields, which was all great. But actual Liverpool itself, we were kind of just confined to our like where the venue was pretty much.
Right, so meant to like a restaurant.
Yeah, we only had the day, so you know to jam pack all of Liverpool in a day would be. Yeah.
And what other? So you've toured here before, but what other cities did you manage to go to? You went to Birmingham. I mentioned Birmingham before because I'm just from right there. But Manchester?
We've been to Birmingham and Manchester. We've already played in Leeds once, our own show. London a number of times now.
We did Glasgow.
Yeah,
Glasgow,
of
yes.
course. Which was still to this day, I think the wildest Wallows show we've played.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've heard north like when you get further north, it gets just more rowdy.
Yeah,
Is that
100%.
Oh,
definitely.
we can't wait
Yeah.
to get back there.
That'd be
We've
amazing.
never played a show in Ireland, I don't think. So we're finally playing one in Dublin.
that's the first show in
It's the
January.
first
That's
show
gonna be
back.
so fun.
Mhm.
Gonna be playing Italy, like a bunch of places like
Amazing.
that I've never been.
I know you've talked a lot about the Beatles in your interviews and things like that, but are there any kind of influences that maybe people would be surprised by that they wouldn't necessarily know that you're influenced by in some regard, or even just like that you listen to?
I was listening to, I was watching the Hayao Miyazaki films for the first time recently, and that really inspired me, the music. I was like, wow, this is so just beautiful and great. So I think that will inspire me, you know, and that may be something that people wouldn't expect.
Yeah.
But
This might
Yeah.
surprise people. I remember on like Nothing Happens when we were recording that, our first album, I remember there were some moments that I was trying to like, certain production moments I was trying to like copy some energy from like some Kanye records on certain little moments.
Yeah.
Where like, I remember like the bridge and sidelines when it goes, da-na, I wanted it to be like on highlights on Life of Pablo. And it's like,
Yeah.
da-na. Like I wanted it to kind of
A
have
level of
energy.
that.
Just random.
Tapping into that.
That might be surprising that I was
Yeah.
like trying to sneak in some like Kanyeisms, which
Yeah.
does not translate at all.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I was like, wow, I can hear it like this.
When you go into making a record, like your latest one and also like your first LP, do you have like a sort of agenda or an idea about how what music you're going to make? Is that a hard question?
I think going into our first album, Nothing Happens, yes, we had a very clear mindset of what it was going to be like, how it was going to flow, like the trajectory it was going to take and where it was going to start, how it was going to start and end and all this kind of stuff and what we wanted it to feel like. Just because we had years and years to think about our debut album and imagine it in so many different ways and iterations. And for our second album, Tell Me That It's Over, it was a conscious effort to not go into it that way because we didn't want to overthink our second album. Like, we feel like it's really easy to do. And like you always hear a lot of people talk about, a lot of artists talk about. So, and because we didn't feel like we needed to, because our position going into our second record, we already had like almost 40 songs out, I think,
Yeah.
at that point, where, you know, if we had just made a record and then gone into the second record, then we'd have 11 songs out and you go in. So it's we felt like, well, we have so much music out. This feels like our third or fourth album at this point. So let's just go in, not overthink what this needs to be, and just focus on this song by song and try to make these songs as good as they can be,
Yeah.
and then find a way to put it together in a way that makes sense in the end. Find the album, what that is, at some point deeper in the process. And so we approach each really differently in that way. And
Yeah.
they both took such different amounts of time. Like Nothing Happens, we were done tracking in 6 weeks, and then Tell Me That It's Over, we tracked over the course sporadically of like 8 months.
So long.
Yeah. So
Yeah. So much time.
so yes and no. I think we've done both of like really knowing what the music is going to be like, and we had it was a very I'd say fruitful collaboration with Ariel Helwani, who produced our second album. We produced Tell Me That It's Over because we were really just trusting his instincts, and then we were just finding these songs together, and he just was really finding these ways to take a demo we had and flip it completely upside down.
Yeah.
Like, you know, one song that we thought would be like super moody and like mid-tempo ends up being like the peppiest sounding song on the album, for example, you know, which was fun to just let that happen and just like naturally just follow one instinct and see where you end up. And yeah. Anyway, I'll stop rambling, but that's a long-winded answer to your question.
How was it working with Ariel, actually? You know, you have somebody that has such ingratiated in the music industry in lots of different kind of genres and lots of levels of artists. How did you enjoy it? Did you learn a lot from the process as well, working with him?
Yeah, I mean, Ariel, I'll start by saying is he's just the best dude. Like the three of us and him, you know, ended up just getting along really well as friends, which certainly made the collaboration a lot easier, just because we like would show up there and know that we're gonna have a good time, and like Ariel's gonna tell us some story or something, and we just really ended up trusting each other, which was good. And yeah, when it comes to music, he has such a knowledge of music history and different artists. Like we'd show up and like we think, you know, I feel like we are pretty avid music listeners. Like we know a lot of music, but then Ariel would be like, hey, have you heard this song? Like, why don't we try this direction? And then it's just something that like why have I never heard this? Like some weird deep thing that's so good. So yeah, he definitely opened up our minds and helped us sort of let go of like the preciousness of the demos. And like Dylan said, like we'd walk in with an idea that we sort of thought would be one way, and then he'd be like, oh, why don't we turn this into like a sunny, happy pop song? So yeah, he challenged us, but also really like navigated the ship forward. Yeah, it was great.
He's also someone that we've admired his work for so many years. Like he's like after our first album, we're like, well, if we, you know, it was sort of someone that we was like the ideal person to make our next album in our head, right? Like, it would be cool to work with him next and see, you know, and we're lucky that we got to.
Yeah, I think there was an interview that I watched as well where you were talking about the best artists always try to have a level of progression in how they work, and I think one band that you name checked was Radiohead. Like that's basically the classic example of people that always try to push things forward. And I mean, I'm assuming this, but like you say, having the idea of working with somebody like Ariel is also having that kind of level of knowing that you want to like progress your sound and never be, I guess, like not in a bad way, but not be stale, always kind of keep pushing forward.
Yeah, I mean, and what's interesting about Radiohead though is that they've done every album with the same producer.
I have this theory where it's like, there's two ways to look at it. You can work with someone else. Every album makes something different, but at the same time, you're starting at square one with them. Sure, you can explain your ideas, but if you work with the same producer, they know what you've made because they made it with you, so you can progress together. So, like I remember when we finished the Spring EP with John Congleton, we were going to make the album, and he sent us this whole email, and you're saying what we made was great, but this has got to be better. You know, like it just has to be. And I feel like that's a reason I'd want to work with John again or Ariel, whoever, just because since you both know what you've made, you don't have to like start that process of shaking hands and how are you and what's your dog's name? You don't have to go there. So I feel like you already know his dog's name. He has no cats. No kidding. Does he have a cat? He has a cat.
John has
He has a cat.
Ariel has
but yeah, so I think that's also an interesting way to look at it as well.
I guess we're talking a lot about progression. What do you think? Like, what do you want the live shows to be like, especially when you come back around in January? How do you reckon that the next record's going to be? Are there things that you've been listening to recently that are more contemporary or of the last few years that are influencing the sound? Have you even thought about it yet? That kind of thing.
We are thinking about it, talking about it quite frequently, actually. I mean, it's weird. We're very much like in touring mode. We still have a lot of it left for this album, and we're excited to do it. We love playing this album live, and we love this tour, and really taking all of it in, but at the same time, we're really, from a creative standpoint, really thinking about the next thing. And we did a really long run this year. We did like 2 months straight on the road. And then, so it's been nice to have just like this break with like some sporadic sort of one-off situations. But we're excited to get back out there and keep this tour going because it's, I don't know, we're still really proud of telling me that it's over.
Yeah, of course. And it only came out in March, so...
Yeah,
I know.
Yeah, to us, I think it feels like it's been out for way longer because like we started over a year and a half ago when we started working on it. So yeah, the fact that it's so young is strange.
By the time it came out, I was already done listening to it at that point, so it feels like it's been out forever. But I'll put it on every once in a while now, though, just to remind myself of just like what it is. And I like that I take a long time and listen to it again because I'm like, oh, I like this, and then I just put it away. But anyway, but the shows are, I mean, we're just excited to get, in terms of what we're excited for, it's to get to more countries we've never been to. I mean, the next places we're going to that we've never played in are Australia and New Zealand, and then going to Mexico and some new places in, like we were talking about, UK and Europe, and then beyond, we're doing more after that. So I think we're just excited to just see how different crowds react in different places. And there's a lot we've been listening to that, I mean, that is sort of inspiring where we picture the direction of the next album going. We don't want to like give too much away because you never really know
it might change.
What's going to happen.
You never know.
You never know.
Yes.
It could change.
But I do think that how we're talking about it, I feel like our fans would be excited about, I think.
And speaking about touring as well, I really enjoyed your tour documentary that you did, I think probably for the last campaign, because it reminded me a lot of, I'm not sure if you've watched this, but The Strokes in Transit.
Oh yes.
I watched it so many times when I was a teenager, and I was just like, this is what tour life is like.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah.
It's so cool, and also literally right at the beginning, before they became like as huge as they were. But I think it's really interesting and nice that people have like an element of understanding what goes into like literally touring. I guess you see like the kind of banal bits that people don't know. Like a lot of touring, I think, is a lot of like just like loading out, loading in, sound check, hopefully seeing something, eating probably quite shit food.
Yeah, right.
Then going back in the van again.
Right.
But I thought it was really nice to like see that, and I think a lot of fans and like music fans it's like a nice insight into what it's like to be a touring band and touring musicians.
Yeah, it can be. I love it. So don't want this to come across the wrong way, but it can be kind of like exhausting and boring sometimes. Like we were at today, we all went to the Tate Modern Museum.
Yeah.
It's funny, there was an exhibit where it's just footage of people like waiting for some sort of like town meeting, but they're like waiting. So then the footage is uncut. People like sitting in like like an auditorium, just kind of like sitting waiting. And like the point of the piece, reading the little thing is like just how much of a waste of time something like that can be. So, but I feel like you could make that exact same exhibit with just like us sitting around on tour, like waiting at the airport, like sitting in the bus, just like doing, like it's that is just kind of how the time goes by.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is funny. And then like the show is an hour and a half. Like your life happens in these like hour and a half bits every night. Strange.
I think what keeps me like super, like even in boring, like sort of mundane moments on the road, but keeps me engaged and excited is the fact that we have such great relationships with each other and the
100%.
people that we tour with.
Yeah.
Because when I'm doing that, I'm thinking like, damn, I can't imagine being a solo artist on the road. Like maybe you have great relationships with your crew and band members, like the people who play for you, but like, I'm like, damn, that could get really hard and really lonely because there is so much like time where nothing's happening on tour as well.
Yeah.
Where I can see how it can get dark for people and get really hard, but we're very lucky that we have just a great rapport and just it's really fun.
Yeah, I guess sometimes it's why people that are solo artists hire like their best friend as an assistant or a touring companion, or like maybe they'd have like their mum that I'm sure has other complications, but having your mum or your dad as your manager or something, just like a level of like normalcy and like I guess feeling at home in some ways.
Just to stay grounded and to have a tether to reality, because tour can feel so strange and like we're on buses now, so you just quite literally you're just teleporting every night. You go to sleep and you wake up and you're somewhere new and you're just floating aimlessly around wherever you are. That it's like it can start to get like it can start to be moments where you're like, what am I doing? Like this is crazy.
Yeah,
right?
where am I?
Yeah, seriously, like, where am I again? And there's nothing ever familiar besides just like
Starbucks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Something like that. So it's our relationships together and the fans. Just like that's every night going out there and just seeing people who, no matter what's going on, you can sort of put it away when you're on stage and like, wow, all these kids and people that are here are like have been waiting months for this moment, right? Like we may have been doing this yesterday, but like they've been so excited for this moment, and you see that when you go out there, like, oh right, like I remember what it feels like when I've just been anticipating something, and we're those people now. So it's just like,
how would you want your records to be received in 10 years? Like, what do you think? Do you think that like, or do you want it to be something that like ages with time? You don't necessarily record in a way that like feels very like specific to a time. It's something that you want to age well.
I'd say that. I think it'd be cool if you can look back on the album and it has like a special place because of where you heard it, and like it grows with you versus something that's just there for a second and then you move on.
Flash in the pan.
Yeah, I mean that's always the goal, that would be great.
Yeah.
Really cool.
yeah, I feel like Nothing Happens is really important to a lot of our fans, that album, and I hope that it remains that like important album of like nostalgia to them. Like I would love that, and I do hope that I feel like two projects that we made, Remote EP and Tell Me That It's Over, are both albums that I think are ones that will just grow with time. And I think so. I hope that those are something that age like wine. But I think I hope that in like 10 years we have at least 4, hopefully 5 albums under our belt, and like people can sort of look at it like how we look at, or how I look at, I think all of us look at like someone like Arctic Monkeys, where it's like, damn, they started so strong and it just, the progression makes complete sense, and it only got like bigger and better in a lot of ways, and just like you can look at every era of this band and be like, this is so, every bit of this is so impressive, but they never really repeated. I think that's sort of what I would hope is.
And so what are your plans for the next, aside from touring? Well, I mean, touring is obviously inevitable because you're still on tour. But what do you want to see while you're in Europe at this time? Have you got any like plans as much as possible around the cities that you're going to?
I want to go to a soccer game.
Yeah?
Yeah. There's a few days off where like there's games happening in various cities, and so I really hope that we can experience that when we're in Europe.
Yeah, that would be fun. It's going to be a very like good sort of British, European experience if you do get it, because I mean it's obviously huge here.
Well, both these guys' birthdays while we're on the road. We're in New Orleans for Cole's birthday, and
We're in Germany, somewhere.
Oh, it might be.
It was
Somewhere in
Italy.
Europe on Braden's birthday.
Somewhere in Europe.
Yeah.
We're playing shows on both of your birthdays. So sick.
You just have to announce it while you're playing. Like it's Cole's birthday today.
We have to
Open
find
up the pit.
fun ways to celebrate it. There's also like, we have a day off in Copenhagen. We were just talking about like there's a restaurant we want to go to there.
Going to Noma.
Yeah, we want to. It's supposed to be the best restaurant in the world. We were just talking about like we gotta go to the best restaurant in the world.
Yeah, some fancy.
That'd be nice.
Have actual
herbs.
nice European cuisine. It's difficult to get.
And I want to see all
unless
the
you
like
plan it.
architecture and see the sights. I could just walk around and
Yeah.
have coffee for hours.
And it'll be winter, so I hope it's like
A nice
proper
backdrop.
cold.
Maybe
Yes.
buy a nice coat. You know what I mean?
A real.
Come with a sort of empty suitcase.
Yes. Yes.
That's a good idea. I'm sure you have to get loads of presents for family as well, surely.
Sure.
Little
So you
trinkets.
have to make sure that you pack enough.
100%.
Leave enough space.
I have
for
a
them.
giant suitcase, but I might invest in a smaller suitcase because our tour managers don't like it. It's like literally like this big. Anyway,
It is
it's
shockingly
huge.
large.
It's a big.
It's awesome.
suitcase.
Is it like, okay, this is too, this you have.
Oh yeah,
to-
they're like, what is this? And I'm like, oh, okay. So very, very, yeah.
Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today.
Of course.
It's
Thank
been
you.
a pleasure.